Thank you. Okay, recording in progress. So we're going to just see a kind of case study and see how we're getting on. So as I said, I'm in the north of Spain. I went to a place, the province is called Segovia. Segovia is the province which is north of Madrid, okay? And it's in the region which we call Castile, which is the most traditional part of Spain, where they speak the best Spanish in the entire world, okay? It's the purest form of Spanish, absolutely no accent. One of the interesting things about this part of Spain, you can speak to anybody on the street, from a small child to an old person. It doesn't matter if they're a bank manager or very a rich millionaire, or somebody who's just making coffee in a small cafe. You're going to understand them absolutely perfectly because they just speak really, really good Spanish. In this part of Spain, there's no second language. In some parts of Spain, like in Valencia or the Basque Country, they actually have their own regional language, and so those are bilingual settings. Yeah? But here it's just plain Spanish, and you'll always find somebody to help you. You'll always find somebody to explain things to you. They'll find somebody who speaks English. It might be a small child, No, don't worry, my nephew speaks a bit of English, and they drag along some 10-year-old, to explain. It's like, ask her what she wants, what's she asking for? You think, oh, I'm going to have a coffee, and you're thinking, Starbucks, I want a flat white or a latte. And they'll be going, we don't understand. Come on, child, translate. And they'll be going, what's a cafe con leche? Right? So it's not a white coffee, it's more like a latte, but it might be a very, very small one, okay? Tiny little one. So yeah, those are some of the nice things which you're going to absolutely love, getting to know a little bit about Spain. And it's all learning by doing. Okay, you don't need instructions before you come, but we'll try and give you a few. So anyway, I went off to Segovia, which is about 100 kilometers from here. Segovia itself is an absolutely beautiful, monumental city. If any of you have seen the new movie Snow White, or if you're going to see it, parts of it were filmed in the city of Segovia, because it has there's two famous things. One, a Roman aqueduct, which is right in the city centre, absolutely massive, perfectly preserved, 2,000 years old. And the other thing it's got is a cathedral, of course. And then it's got this beautiful castle, absolutely beautiful castle, with these towers. If you've ever seen Disneyland, the kind of big castle, the Snow White's castle, it was based on this particular one, which is in Segovia. It's the real thing from the 14th century, perfectly preserved. Anyway, have a look at the film or the trailer. You'll see the castle, because some parts of it were filmed inside the castle, right? So that's one reason it's worth going to see. So I went down there. There's about 120,000 people there. It's only 20 minutes from Madrid by high-speed train. The only thing that separates Segovia from Madrid is a huge mountain range, quite high by Spanish or European standards. And you can go skiing up there. In fact, I went up there and it was all covered in snow up top, and it had snowed. In fact, they said Monday and Tuesday of this week. I got there, let's see, end of March, it was about 4 degrees this morning. Okay, so quite chilly, quite cold. So let's have a look. I'm going to give you a couple of things to see. And this is, okay, what our orientation is going to be like today, the general thing. Again, if you've got any questions, just keep them. You can write them whenever you like, and I'll answer them all at the end. Okay. So at the moment, where are we? Our timeline, well, next week, April begins. So you're going to keep on getting these automated messages saying upload this and upload that and upload the other. So you're in two separate groups, really. Um, those people from Germany, like Nelly or Merle, or Simon, Simon, you will submit your documents directly to the German organization. So even if you get a message from me, if you want to upload something, you're fine. If not, you'll be doing that with the German person, with Alejandra. Okay, Alexandra. Um, and if you're from anywhere else, then you have to upload stuff. Some of you have already sent me the documents prior to our adopting the new automated system. So don't worry too much, okay? If you want to ask me, look, I know the other day I sent out a mass message saying, upload your photos, and most of you had already done it. So I'm sorry if you get these messages. They're kind of timed. So 10 days after you asked for the photograph, you'll then be asked for your medical certificate or stuff like that. Don't worry, you've got lots of time. Okay. So this month, April, what we want to do is just make sure you've got all the documents. I'm going to start asking you for letters of reference as well. Okay. Um, and then April goes into May. April and May, I'm visiting the placements. I'm visiting current placements and I'm visiting potential placements. So those are the schools, to decide exactly who's going where. I think there's going to be about 24 people here in September starting. Of those 24, I think 5 people will be people who started here in January and they've decided they want to carry on after the summer. So that means we need approximately 18 different placements to make sure that everybody's got somewhere to go. All right. So when it comes to June, we'll get it. I'll be visiting April, May. When we get to June, you're going to have to start making sure you've got your travel documents, your passports ready. You know where you're going. Start looking at things like insurance for travel. Okay. I will advise you. And then we get into July when you'll be getting the placement details. Some of you might have them before. And then at that point, especially if you're from Australia, USA, New Zealand, then we'll be working on the visa process, which I will guide you through. Now, for people from Australia, there's specific instructions about the visa, which I'll talk to you about. There are actually two Spanish consulates in Australia. One's very good, and one's very slow. Okay, so the one in Sydney is fantastic. They do everything very well. The one in Melbourne is not so good. It's slow. They're not very efficient. So this is something just to keep in mind. If you're from Australia, depending on where you live, you have to apply through Melbourne or Sydney, or some places through Canberra, but mainly Sydney and Melbourne. Therefore, depending on where your residence is, where you live, then you have to do it Melbourne or Sydney. So we know that Sydney is better. And that means if you have the possibility of using an address in Sydney, maybe your grandparents or your uncle and auntie or cousins live near around Sydney, it's always better to do it through there. And we'll talk about that specifically nearer the time. Okay. So think about that. Think about that. You would need some kind of proof of address in the areas covered by Sydney to be able to do that. Yeah. Also then comes July, we'll be talking about placements, time to buy your tickets, 3 months in advance. And then August is when you'll be getting the family details. Okay, so you'll have at least a month to, get in contact with the family, get to know them a little bit, use FaceTime or Meet or Teams, whatever you like, to get to know them. Okay, so that's where we are at the moment. This then, where are our placements? We've seen this before, and if we look around, you see that green spot right in the middle. That's Tres Casas. That's the school in Segovia. Okay, it's in Segovia. So we'll look at what it looks like when you get your placement details. What are you going to see? Okay, what are you going to see? So here's the name. The name of the town is Tres Casas, which means three houses. Literally, it's a very, very small place. 88 students in the school. And we're going to have just a little look now at the school itself. Okay, I think you can see that. Can you see that? Okay. If I said, this is the place, right? There's, I'm not sure how I can make that any bigger, but anyway, if I make it a little bit smaller, you can see we've got Madrid down here, and then 20 minutes to Segovia by high-speed train. And then as you get to Segovia, actually Tres Casas, it's only about 6 kilometers outside of the city. So in fact, a lot of people who live in Tres Casas probably work in the city. Okay. So very, very near. There's bus services. You could get an Uber or a taxi into Tres Casas for about 10 euros or something like that. Okay. Segovia, it's a lovely place. It's quite big, and there's the Alcázar. Okay. There's Snow White. You see that? Snow White's castle. And so that's actually it's pretty good there. Can you see that? The animation, the film? Yeah. So it really looks like it. And if you watch the trailer, you'll see parts where whoever it is singing and dancing and so on, but absolutely beautiful, and a great place to visit. So yeah, very, very pretty. Kind of actually built out of the rock on one side of the town, on one side of the city. Okay, and it's had some very famous, illustrious residents there, from the Queen Isabel, I think, or Queen Princess Juana, all these kind of people. Perfectly preserved. Okay, so absolutely medieval. Okay. So we go back anyway and see where we are. There's Tres Casas. There we've got the city. And again, on a wider scale, look, I'm there in Valladolid today, and it took me 1 hour and 20 minutes to drive. It would have taken 30 minutes by high-speed train. But if we look a little bit further, we could go right over here to Portugal. It'd be about 3 hours between Valladolid and the Portuguese coast, which is very, very nice as well. And then a little bit bigger, and about 3 hours drive, and you're up in the northern coast up there. Okay? So it gives us an idea of where we are. Tres Casas, it's called. Okay, we'll bring this down a little bit. Okay. Right, and therefore then we've got the school itself. Okay, and this is the school. It's called Las Cañadas. When we have these letters CEIP, that's Centro Educación Infantil and Primaria, which means it's a kindergarten from the age of 3 and primary up to the age of 12 maximum. Okay. And that's the name, Las Cañadas, and this is the regional school board, the education authority, which is Castilla and Leon. And you can get some information. I'll send this on to you. There's the school. It's not a very fancy building, to be honest, but it's really well equipped. And so you're seeing it is a real school. It's not some kind of temporary building which has just been, it's not like if you were going really to a developing country and they might have a very basic kind of infrastructure. This is a beautiful school, actually, really comfortable, very colorful, got everything inside it. And these are some of the things they do. They have the radio ovejas. What's an oveja? Do you know what kind of animal that is?
A sheep.
It's a sheep. Okay. So that is an area where traditionally the cattle, the livestock, are sheep. In fact, cañada means a livestock trail. So that was obviously a route where people would take their livestock back in the day. All right. So they've got the sheep radio station, which they make themselves. They've got, here we are.
Hola, queremos enseñaros nuestro cole. ¿Nos acompañas?
Nuestro colegio es el CEI Las Cañadas, en Tres Casas. Tres Casas es un pueblo al pie de la sierra de Guadarrama y muy cerquita de Segovia. El cole tiene dos edificios, uno para infantil y otro para primaria, con su zona de patio. Estas son las aulas de madrugadores, inglés y música, que también usamos para desdobles. Aquí podéis ver la sala de profes
Staff room.
y el despacho de dirección.
As a director.
Aquí tenemos las aulas de los mayores, como por ejemplo esta, que es la de sexto.
The kids are using laptops in class.
Tenemos comedor,
Dining room.
y con su propio patio.
And a playground.
Este es el edificio de infantil, con su patio donde hay 3 aulas y despacho de profes.
That's the nursery. That's the nursery.
Aquí tenemos el patio con la zona de bancos y el huerto.
En esta zona tenemos los juegos de equilibrio, la fuente y la pista polideportiva.
Como veis, estamos rodeados de muchas zonas verdes.
¡Anímate y ven a conocernos!
Well, it says, come and visit us, come and visit us at Tres Casas. So there's basically the school. And this, the furnishing and the style and the design, that is a typical public, that's a state primary school. And that is kept open for just 88 kids. So it's one of the smaller ones. We do have some which are really small with just 15 children in the whole school. Okay. So, wow, that's a challenge. That those schools tend to be even more remote, out in the mountains and stuff. And I will offer some of those to some of you, because I know some of you have written on your initial application and have told me at interview, or told my friend Kudzi, who interviewed some of you, that I said, where would you like to go? And some people said, well, I would like to go where I will be able to make the biggest difference to people's lives. Wow. So for those people who have said that kind of stuff, I will show you some of or I will offer you, let's say, some of the more remote regions or remote areas. Okay, so let's go back. And there we are. So there's the information, and it doesn't say much there, but you will have a website you can look at. This is, it says here, the CIEP is a public school, infant and primary education. It started in 1997, okay, just as a kindergarten. And in 2000, they started with primary, probably because at that moment, the village was growing with people who lived in Segovia. they just had the first, the kids were very, very small, but as they progressed and got older, then they had to offer primary education as well. Okay, so it used to be in the town hall. There was no specific purpose-built building, but that came afterwards. So 2018, that was 7 years ago, this building was actually opened. Very nice people. Anyway, as you know, your volunteer duties, depending on which organization you're coming from, will actually be 16 to 18 hours per week with the class groups. You're going to help them with their spoken English practice. You're going to help the class teacher as an English assistant. You have to attend meetings, and you will meet with your placement mentor. So wherever you have your placement, there's one person in charge who's your main contact. And you'll also take part in school activities, excursions, theatre, outings, all sorts of stuff like that, which is a lot of fun, which really is a lot of fun. Okay. Okay, Tres Casas is 15 minutes from Segovia. There's a bus that goes to Segovia. It takes 20 minutes and 90 minutes away. Yeah, I took about 90 minutes, a little bit less, from Valladolid, the capital of the region. Okay, that's information which everybody will get. Okay, now I seem to have lost some of my slides. I was just putting this together before, and that's a real shame. So I'm going to show you a few. I'm going to show you a few more things. I've got to find out where it is. That's really odd. There we go. Ah, that's a bit better. So the person who's there at the moment is called Jade, and she's from Australia. Okay, let me do this again. I'm going to have to share this with you again. Case study Jade. Stop sharing and do it again. Don't know why. So you've got the sound. Yeah. So case study Jade. Okay, so what are some of the things that she does? And she was telling me this morning, well, look, here's some of the things she's been doing. So before Christmas, they had the Halloween project. And that was, well, let's decorate for Halloween. The kids do it in arts and crafts, and they learn colors, and they learn how to do things in English. And then there's also, drawing. Let's create a monster. Let's give them a name. Then they have a nice display of all the different monsters. What else do they do then when it's Halloween, when they're working on that project? Okay, then they write little letters. Maybe they create a Halloween character. Maybe they do a little sort of game, pop-up game with paper and stuff like that, and then they have to write a little note. So what they're doing is, as far as English goes, they're going from, colouring things in where they have to learn the colours, inventing a name for their monster, and then they go on with a bit more writing practice, very simple. And then there's Jade, okay? So that was obviously at Halloween. The kids came in with their different costumes. And what did they do? Well, I guess they did all sorts of things. First of all, in their class groups. Okay, Jade got done up as well. And then in bigger groups. Well, I don't know what this guy's got, but he's got a beautiful one. There's Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street, is it? I think, or Friday the 13th. Wow, he's quite sinister. Interestingly, if you go to one of the private schools, particularly the faith-based schools, the Catholic ones, some of them won't celebrate Halloween because they think it's too sinister. Okay? But, most of them, it's just like all over the world, it's just a kind of fiesta, as it were. If we look here, they've got all sorts of English prompts. So, the date, the month, it's all there in English with other decorations. And they're Okay, so we've got whoever he is, and there's a ninja, and there's Jade again with her little horns and stuff. So they're allowed to come in dressed up. What else does Jade do? So she was drawing, coloring. Let's do some writing. Let's draw a monster. Let's dress up. Um, and then she did this. Look, not just one group, but she took it upon herself to do this with the whole school. So. Okay, so obviously they're talking about the kangaroo and they're talking about the gum tree. So I guess this is a typical Australian song. And fair enough. I mean, Jade, her personality is she's very outgoing and she can do this and she feels comfortable taking all 80 kids to do this. You can see the rest of the teachers helping out. You don't all have to do that. If that's not your personality and you don't feel comfortable doing this, don't worry. Okay. It's not going to be you're going to be stuck in the middle and now you've got to dance for everybody and make everybody sing. Okay. But, that's the kind of width, the breadth, the variety of the different activities you can do. Okay. So that was lovely, and they absolutely loved Jade, of course. And here's Jade talking about a couple of different things, okay? Let's see what she says, please. Let's see what she has to say for herself. Let's see if we can listen. Okay. Yeah, so the first one, let's just see.
Okay.
No.
Hola, my name is Jade. I'm from Australia. Right now we are in Cañadas in Tres Casas, a fantastic school that I have been very, very lucky to be placed in. I think the teachers, the staff, everyone that works here and is involved in this school has such a fantastic role and plays such a significant part in these young children's youth and
Can you hear?
to learn and grow as a beautiful young adult that they definitely are. I think these children are very, very lucky, have fantastic resources, and get to do some amazing experiences, from excursions to incursions where members of the community get to come in and work hands-on, one-on-one, in big groups with these young children. I think they're very, very lucky, and I'm very in awe of this school and everything they do for the kids.
And how do they incorporate English?
English. Well, for starters, I am here. Plus, every day, I guess, in the playground, walking around, when I say hello, the students are very receptive and they really, really want to learn English as well. So we talk all the time. We have posters outside in English. When we do encourage, for example, for the Violence Against Women Day, we did a big poster in English as well as in Spanish. But I think throughout all of the learning objectives and tasks, there is always an element of English which is included, which I think shows greatly because of the fact these students, their English is fantastic. It exceeds my expectations.
Okay, which is nice. Now this is she's the third volunteer we've had at the school. The one from Canada, Jade, and also one from New Zealand, all a great success. So then Jade went on after we'd given her New Ventures hoodie. She told us something else about the school.
Well, I am very lucky. I get to work with some amazing teachers and some amazing students who have been very, very welcoming. Every morning I'm greeted by so many little hellos and good mornings in the playground. It's beautiful. In terms of the school, I've been very lucky to be welcome on all of the excursions that they've been on. For example, on Monday, we went to the House of India. We went to a boat where we got to explore, I guess, the captain's deck and down below in the engine room, which has been fantastic. I guess exploring the different areas in Castilla Leon, like Valladolid, Burgos, Segovia. Fantastic. So
Okay. So I mean, there's Jade. She's finishing off. She's been all over Spain. What she's doing now. Oh, okay. Now that she's finishing her placement, she's got plans to spend. She's coming up to Easter, which is the week after next, or in 3 weeks' time, and then she's going to spend like 3 weeks traveling around Spain, going off to Italy. She's already been to Germany, to Hungary, to the Czech Republic, to the UK. So whilst she was here, she did have the chance to travel around quite a lot. Okay. And then she's going back, and she just told me today that she's found a job as a teaching assistant in Australia, which is amazing, because one of her tasks is going to be to teach Spanish. Her Spanish isn't fantastic, but she's had first-hand contact. And so that's what she's going to be doing when she goes back to Australia. And she's got great ideas. She's very motivated, which is really, really nice. Yesterday, I went to see Lily Doberman, who's a German volunteer who's in about 90 minutes north of where I am. Also very, very happy, very, very happy where she is. A different kind of school, much bigger, lots more teachers and so on in the city centre of Burgos. But I've got to say, both are equally happy. Okay. So that's the reality of what it looks like inside of a place. So based on that, I'll stop there. Okay. So let me know. I mean, have you got any questions based on this? Does this give you a kind of inside idea of what it's going to be like, how it's going to be interacting with other teachers, interacting with students and so on, and what it's going to look like mainly in a school?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, go on.
In like one school, can there only be one like volunteer? Like, can there be multiple? You know
Yeah,
what
I
I
mean,
mean?
we've got one school, and this is why I'm going to visit them. So, yeah, I mean, we've got one school that's got 3 volunteers, another one that's got two, another with two. Yeah, I'm thinking quite a lot have two.
So
Okay.
there's not like usually like just one volunteer in one school. Like there's multiple, or like it can be.
It normally it's just one, but and it depends on how many host families they've got. Okay, that depends on the school.
Appreciate it.
Um, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, again, a lot of the time the schools come in May and say, yeah, I want 3 or 4. And then you get to August or July and they say, well, I've only got one family, so I can only take one, you know?
Um, with working at like private schools, is there any kind of uniform that we have to follow?
Yeah, well, not particularly. If it's one of the real Catholic schools, they will say you must wear blue trousers or a blue skirt. And then they things like no jeans, no visible piercing, no tattoos, um, no political messages on your clothes, no ripped jeans and stuff. And then you start to see them and say, oh, yeah, but hold on, I've been there. And this teacher was wearing trainers and was wearing jeans. So it's a little bit, what's your definition of jeans? There's no, there's no uniform as such. Okay. but they might ask you to be, to wear a pair of trousers and like a polo shirt or a tennis shirt or something like that. That might be the maximum. Okay? In the state schools, there's no uniform requirement at all. And that will be on the information you receive. And it'll just say something like smart casual, you know?
I have a question. When do you think like we'll like know where we're gonna be like assigned to? Like, like the school? Like by
Well,
when?
as they start to confirm with me, so some of them I've got a pretty good idea of where you're going to be going. Simon, I know where you're going to be going. Josephina, Josie, I know where you're going to be going. Okay, more or less. Um, Amali, I know where I'd like you to go, which is near Ellis. Oh no, well, he'll be gone by the time you get here. But anyway, yeah, so that's going to be as they confirm with me, which is kind of starting right now. So I've already got Simon's school. I went to see them yesterday as well. But from that visit, which is a boarding school, there's two more schools in the same area. Now they're boarding schools and said, yeah, we'd both like a volunteer. That's something where if you're interested, you'll have to come forward and say, yeah, I'd really like to go to a boarding school environment. That particular one I went to see yesterday is interesting because they have young adults education as well, for sports management. So if you really like outdoor activities and so on, that's a good choice. But yeah, May, June, I would say, and at the latest, July. Anything else you need to know? No? Okay. I'm fine. Brilliant. It's just nice to see you there and nice to know that you're still kind of in the process and I can still say things. Obviously, you can send me, there's a question down here. Question says, so it's only spoken or written as well. It's mainly spoken English. That is the number one priority. But obviously, when you're studying a language or when you're working with the kids to study a language, the written English is the way that you know they are producing something which for them it becomes fixed in their mind. So they see their monster and then they think back to Halloween and then they think back to the song and how they were singing or speaking and learning the words. So yeah, normally in a classroom situation, you would end with some drawing or some writing, which would kind of help them transition into it going from being a game or a fun activity to being a class activity because they did have to write something down. Any more questions? Not for the moment. No? All right. My mates are saying, when are you coming down to the bar? When are you coming down? We're waiting for you. We're watching the game. Wow, I said it's 9:45. It's too late to go out now. Okay. And they're just getting started. Okay. Fair enough. Pretty typical. Pretty typical. Okay. But having said that, I've got a 9 o'clock meeting in the morning with the local education board, who also deal specifically with the public schools in the Castilla region. Okay. All right. I want you to keep in mind, there's one area of Spain which will always be optional, which is the Basque country. The reason is they speak 50% Basque language and 50% Spanish. Okay. And if you're really keen, you really want to study Spanish, then that's probably not the place for you. But there's a couple of spectacular schools up there. Okay. Right. So you will be Yeah, you will be assisting in speaking and writing, of course. Yeah. Okay, depending on the age of the kids. But yeah, so there's a placement in a city called San Sebastian, which is on the northern coast, just next to France. It is a completely bilingual school. It is breathtaking. It is amazingly beautiful, this city. Okay. So, at the moment they only want one volunteer, but that's an interesting place to go. Since it's a city, you'll find there's more people speaking Spanish. Right. This year we've got somebody who's way up in the mountains, a little place called Amesquita. Wow. And it's a farming community. And she's all right. She's from New Zealand and she is actually from a farming community in New Zealand. So she's kind of not really very phased by it. But I wouldn't oblige anybody to go to one of those placements, okay, where it's very remote. Okay. So as you know, next meeting, which will probably be after Easter, I want you then each to speak a little bit about your expectations. And that way that will help me shape the kind of placement which might be best for each person. All right, that's all from me. Got to tell you, the group of volunteers we got now are absolutely fantastic. They're doing a lot of stuff together. They're traveling a lot. They were together in Valencia 2 weeks ago for the Fallas Festival. Then they're going off to Bilbao. They're going to Alicante. Some of them are going to Morocco. Some are going to Portugal. All these places you can get to overland or very cheap flights. Okay. So really, I'm going to Sicily next month, with a beautiful island in the Mediterranean at the tip of Italy, Sicily. Flights, it's like 60 euros return. So, you're thinking about moving around within Europe and you see that the low cost travel is a reality, very, very affordable as well. Okay. All right.
When is going to be our next meeting?
Our next meeting will be after Easter. The reason I can't tell you is because in the 4 different areas we work, they have different Easter vacation calendars. Okay, but expect it to be around the 23rd of April. Okay, expect it to be around 23rd of April, which is just when most of the schools finish their Easter vacations. Okay, so good to see you. I'll let you get on with your day. If you've just woken up, thank you very much. And if you're just about to go to bed, sleep well, put your pajamas on and look forward to a good day tomorrow. I'm off, as you know, to have a glass of wine and a bit of tortilla, Spanish tortilla, with my buddies in the bar. Okay, mis amigos. Okay, so enjoy yourselves. Thank you very much for coming.